Want to learn the sax but don't know where to start? I'm here to give you a few hints and tips on helping you to find your first saxophone. Hi, I'm Tom and I'm one of the orchestral specialists at Gear for Music, and I'm here to help you choose your first saxophone. One of the first things to consider is the saxophone type. So things like this alto saxophone would be ideal. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's probably a little bit easier to play than some of the other saxophones, and it's better for smaller hands. There's also lots of music written for alto saxophone, so why don't you think about things like Baker Street? But there's also plenty of other music out there too. When you're researching your first saxophone, you'll see a lot of jargon, so I'm here to help explain what that actually all means. Most saxophones do have fairly standard configurations. If we run from top to bottom on the saxophone, we'll have a look at some of the different features. So you'll see a mouthpiece, a ligature, and a reed. So this is basically where the sound starts and comes from. So most beginner saxophones do come with this setup. So you make the sound here and it's basically amplified through the saxophone. So that's one way to look at it. Next, we've got the crook or the neck. So this helps to angle the saxophone towards you. And you'll also see the octave mechanism here. So you have to be very careful when you're assembling. Next, you've got all the keys. So this helps control the note and some of the mechanisms that control the notes as well. So some other things to think about are the palm keys. So these are the keys that are here, and they help control the top notes right at the top end of the saxophone. And then you've also got the table keys here, which mainly control the lower notes. It's really important how the saxophone feels under the fingers. You want to make sure that the notes are there and you feel comfortable while playing. So this saxophone, like many others, has a fairly standard configuration, but there are others on the market that do have a few less keys to make it even lighter and better for younger players. So you'll notice on some of them that don't necessarily have these palm keys here or the table keys here. So that does make it lighter, but you are a little bit more limited in terms of the range of the instrument. And so if you do want to progress further with the saxophone, you will need to look at upgrading at this point. A lot of manufacturers do look at the ergonomics of their instruments. That's to say, basically, how it feels under the fingers. And obviously you want a good action, so that will respond to the touch. Premium quality components are really crucial for this. So looking at the saxophone, you'll see things like blue needle springs on some saxophones, and these really respond quite quickly. So it's making sure that you can really play quickly and the instrument will respond. Pads are also important on a saxophone, so this creates the seal on the note, so you actually get a really good sounding note. High quality parts like Pisoni pads are really good to have, so they do create that better seal on the pads. So you see sort of down here, you've got all the different pads on the notes as well. And you also see, if you look a bit more carefully, you've got some metal reflectors that really helps to reflect the sound out of the saxophone and really help project. So not only do quality parts help you playing, but also they last a bit longer generally. So you will have to go to repair even less, so you'll end up saving money in the long run. Ching ching! As you'll know, the saxophone is a really versatile instrument and it's found in lots of different genres of music. So when you think about the saxophone, you'll often think of jazz, a bit of pop music maybe, but also think metal or playing along with a DJ or even classical music. But the saxophone that you choose can have a different sound depending on the finish of the material. Things like this Yamaha saxophone is silver plated. So by having a silver plate, it's got a lighter finish on the saxophone, which means that it will vibrate a little bit more and resonate more. So you've got a bit of a brighter sound. So it's ideal then for music such as pop music, as well as things like bebop. This is a more traditional looking saxophone in respect that it has got a clear lacquer, which most saxophones do have. So by having this clear lacquer, it gives a bit of an extra coating, a thicker coating on the saxophone, and therefore the metal doesn't resonate quite so much, so it gives a warmer sound. So it works really well at blending with other instruments. So it's great if you're playing in groups or ensembles, but it's also great for playing in a lot of different styles, including classical. If you're after more of a vintage look, there are a couple of ways of going about this. So the first option would be to look at an unlacquered saxophone. So that means that there's no lacquer at all on the saxophone, so the metal itself is exposed. So that, it will tarnish and get a really nice patina effect over time and give you a really bottom of the ocean look, which some players really like. By this lack of lacquer, it will actually mean that the saxophone resonates more and a much more raw sound. You can really let go with your playing. The other option would be a bit more of a halfway house. So you've got something like this, which is sort of a pre-aged looking saxophone. It has got the lacquer on top. So that means it won't tarnish over time, but you do have that protection of the lacquer there. So it's not quite as a raw sound, but you'll preserve the look of the instruments. So by playing this sort of saxophone, you'll be getting a bit more of a smoky sound, a bit more of a bluesy sound. As you can hear, the finish of the saxophone can really make such a difference in your playing, so it's one of the features to really consider when looking at your first sax. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. If you've got any questions or queries, please comment below. As I say, I've been Tom, and thank you for watching.